Howdy folks. Today we're going to look at the difference between a non-emissionized Tecumseh carburetor and an emissionized carburetor. One big thing you got to realize is that if you've got a motor with an emissionized carburetor, it is non-adjustable, meaning you have no way to adjust the main jet or the idle jet. Where if you've got a non-emissionized carburetor, you have adjustments for idle and main. So keeping that in mind, we're going to walk through what the big differences are, the do's and don'ts, and well, let's get started. Okay. Now, normally on the non-emissionized engines, there's a black plug that goes over this hole, this screw. This is not an adjustment mixture screw. This is actually a jet. Take a screwdriver and pop this out, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a little bit. There's no way to adjust this. You could theoretically take and widen it with a file, but technically you're not supposed to ever do that, and it is not recommended. So keep that in mind. We're going to put this back together so we don't lose it. And another big thing about this is that if you notice this taper here, there's a little bit of a taper there. That taper fits and seals down inside the hole of the carburetor. So don't reef this in, but you gotta get it snug. That's why you don't take and start messing with the screw, and from the factory these are capped off. I've got a picture in the service manual of what the cap looks like. It's a black cap. I don't know if you folks can see it, but that's a black cap. That black cap is there so that people don't think that you can adjust it. This is a non-adjustable jet. So keep that in mind. Now, the big thing about these carburetors is the fact that they have a removable emulsion tube. What that means is that there's a tube inside the carburetor that you remove and is replaceable. Where with the adjustable ones, you have a brass one. Don't be pushing on that. That is press fit in there. That is not designed to come out. That is not a serviceable part. Even when Tecumseh was big in business, that was not a serviceable part. That would actually wreck your carburetor if you did pull that out. Keep that in mind. Now, these carburetors, both these carburetors, well, this one's a Chinese knockoff. I'm going to tell you that right now. So, and I have opened this up. There are some differences inside that make it really an carburetor. But this is a true, genuine Tecumseh carburetor. That's an emissionized carburetor. And it says it right on the float bowl, Tecumseh Products Company, made in USA. That said, these both come off of identical model motors. It's just one's emissionized, one's not, because one's older, one's newer. They both come off of an HMSK 80, which means it's an 8-horse snowblower engine with a horizontal shaft. That's the breakdown of the name. H horizontal, SK Snow King 80, that's an 8-horse. So let's crack these things open. I'll show you the differences in them on the inside and why you never want to put an emissionized carburetor on a non-emission motor, because it'll run poorly. Some people have luck with them. I think that's just the fact that they got an emulsion tube that works for their application, but typically you don't want to put an emissionized carburetor on a non-emission motor. I think that's self-explanatory. Now, I have seen and heard personally guys taking the non-emissions carburetor and putting them on an emissions motor, and because of the tunability of these carburetors, being able to get it to work flawlessly. Now, EPA disclaimer here, you're not supposed to do that, but the mounting brackets are exactly the same between the two carburetors. They take the same gasket, they are the same thickness, they even have, for the hot plate cover, the same holes. Everything's the same as far as bolt patterning goes. The big changes are inside the carburetors themselves. Keep that in mind. Now, this one is the newer one. You can tell that because the newer ones have the plastic float in them. The older ones have the brass float, of which, if you don't like the plastic float, Oregon does make a factory replacement brass float. So for you folks out there that do not like the plastic floats, that, you know, you think they crack, they leak, whatever, Oregon does make a float that I've had pretty good success with. Personally, I have run a few of these with the plastic floats. They work just fine, especially if you get the genuine Tecumseh ones. I try and steer people away from the ones that are the plastic made in China ones, but they are becoming more prevalent as the years and years roll on that Tecumseh is no longer making parts. So, the insides of these carburetors are almost identical in some ways. Now I'll point out the differences in the Chinese knockoff here as compared to what a true Tecumseh carb should be. But they do use a lot of similar parts, but the one thing I've noticed on the Chinese ones is that they do not have the black oxide coating on the pins. The pins, now, if you ever look in the book, they will show you that if your pin, get the Tecumseh carburetor tool, we'll talk about that a little bit later, if your float pin looks like this, where it's wore off the black oxide coating, replace the pin because it can cause float sticking, and as we all know, that causes flooding and other bad problems. Now, as I pull the float off, a genuine Tecumseh carburetor is going to have a solid one-piece needle. It does not have a neoprene seal at the end, because inside here is your Teflon seal. Now, this is where the Tecumseh carburetor tool comes in. This is designed to work for both the non-emission and the emissionized carburetors. This works for the 4 series carburetors, the 1 series, pretty much any of the float style Tecumseh carburetors that Tecumseh makes. There's a few that it doesn't work with, but typically if you've got the metal bowl, this is the tool that you want to have, because this is actually how you set your float height. They'll tell you in the book how to do it with a drill, but these flats here on the tool are actually, you use this like a feeler gauge between the body of the carburetor and the float, and you set your float height that way. So it's a really good tool if you're rebuilding the Tecumseh carburetors and not just buying the Chinese knockoffs. But it comes with a crochet hook, 2-2.25 millimeter crochet hook. Really, you could just go get the crochet hook from the craft store and use the drill size that they tell you in the book and just press it in. But if you're going to be working with a lot of Tecumseh engines, get the tool. It's well worth it. And the crochet hook is what you use to pull this seal out, and there you go. This is a, I know I said a little earlier, Teflon. It's, what do they call it? It's not so much, what they call it, I believe it's a neoprene seal. It's got a mark on the inside here that you put towards the body. So just when you're putting these seals in, remember the part with the ring around it, or so they say, that goes into the body. The flat end, that's what your needle sits on. And make sure you do that. And I will recommend that you do it by the book with a little bit of WD-40 on this seal to get it down in. And this is where this tool is nice, because as you can see, they did make it so that you can just put the seal right on and stick it down in, pull it out, and the seal's set. So, but that is actually on a Tecumseh carburetor. Now if you look at this Chinese knockoff here, it's got a two-piece seat where it's got the rubber tip and it's got a brass seat. That's the big thing that I have found with these, is the fact that the seats are different. This is kind of the same style that Briggs & Stratton uses on their carburetors, and something tells me that that's kind of just what they did, is they just went and bought a bunch of Briggs & Stratton seats and stuck them in to their clone bodies. But if you look down in here, now this is the same whether it's the Chinese knockoff or the true Tecumseh carb. You've got a brass emulsion tube that it doesn't come out, you don't touch it, you just shoot some high quality carburetor spray through it and you're good. Now this one's obviously broken because there's supposed to be a Welch plug there, but that's what happens in North Dakota winters. But this one has a green emulsion tube that you go in here and come on. Gonna give it a little shake, get it to come out. That's the big problem, is getting these to come out. And sometimes I just find it easier to take a paper clip and just kind of work it out with a paper clip. Now there's supposed to be two O-rings here on this emulsion tube, one at the bottom here and one at the top. Now that's another reason why, folks, you really want to get this tool, is because these O-rings do not like to come out. Now they do still sell the emulsion tubes. They come in different colors. You just got to match up what color you have and get the proper emulsion tube. But as far as it goes, the Tecumseh carburetor, whether it's emissionized or non-emissionized, they come apart pretty much the same, except for the fact that you do have to take out the emulsion tube on the emissionized carburetor, and that is not an adjustment jet. That is a jet that is factory sealed. Supposed to be. But in a kit, you would actually get that jet. So you do have to pull that plug. So, I am actually going to pull this out, and I'm going to show you the difference between this, which is the non-emissionized, and the emissionized. So another big way you can tell if you've got a non-emissionized carburetor is if this has a spring on it, then it's a non-emissionized carburetor. If it doesn't have a spring on it, more than likely it is an emissionized carburetor and you do not adjust it. So say if someone's already been through this carburetor and didn't feel like putting that black plug back on, that's something to look for. But as you can see, this doesn't have any holes down in it, where this one's got a hole going straight through it with 2 holes on the side. Keep that in mind. This is the emissionized carburetor. This is the non-emissionized. Now, I guess people are wondering, why am I doing this video in the first place other than to just give information. One of the big things is that the 212 build that got really put on hold, folks, well, we're probably going to put one of these Chinese knockoff carburetors on our 212. So, and you're kind of wondering, why am I going to put a Tecumseh carburetor on a Honda clone? Why not just go with a Mikuni? Well, for starters, a Mikuni is like $100, and it's only, what, a 22 millimeter carb, where you can pick these Chinese knockoff Tecumseh carburetors on Amazon for anywhere between 10 to 25 bucks all day on Amazon. So, and if you actually look at the intake, let's see. Yes. I hate these set of calipers. I need to get a new set. But, it comes out well over 22 millimeters. Just trust me. So, and to give you an idea, that's a 21 millimeter spark plug socket, and we're same bore diameter essentially. Plus, I'm going to tell you this fact right out, folks. These are actually more adjustable than a Mikuni, because of the fact that you do have the adjustable main and idle jet. But back to emissionized and non-emissionized. Don't put an emissionized carburetor on a non-emission motor. It just doesn't work out real well. And yes, you can put a non-emissionized carburetor on an emissionized motor. Just you gotta pray to God that nobody turns your butt in. So, and we are going to be working with a few Tecumseh motors here in a while, because you can watch the video that I'm going to put out later, probably this week, on the things that I actually got at the citywide cleanup. And one of them is a Tecumseh engine. So keep that in mind. So I know I've been a little rambly here, but thanks for watching, sticking with it. Please comment, rate, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.